Hi, good evening, everybody. I had a friend who said, please, I had a request oh God, no, to do a video about this travesty of justice, this poor woman, Kate Grimley in California. And I just don't know what to say because I just feel like I want to do something horrible to all of the jurors, and I don't want to have these kind of thoughts, but that they would knowingly and cynically and cruelly and mockingly have so much hatred for the family and for the victim that they would look at something as clear and blatant when something can't get any more clear or blatant, and to be so evil. You know, what on earth can I possibly say except that my heart goes out to this family, and this is what we've had to live with. This is what we've been brought to by living under this insanity, this identity politics that is running us into the ground. This family worked hard. They were part of what makes America wonderful. You could just see what a beautiful, radiant, amazing family they were. Now I wonder where they are. What room are they crying in and broken in? And oh my God. My God, just to think that there's that hatred out there for people that are so innocent and that don't even know people, but identity politics is ruling the day. And I remember having that feeling because the message, of course, the message is to white women, your life means nothing. That is the message to me. You know, that is the message. And that is the message that I've received for forever. And I've had to be quiet about it. You know, I'm talking about it now on a video. You know, if I was a black person, I could say this is racist or this is whatever. And I've just never gone into identity politics. I've sort of just absorbed it, like, you know, this person doesn't like me or whatever. But I do remember experiencing it very intensely in New Mexico when we moved there when I was a child. And it was weird because tonight there was a really strange YouTube on about Gregory Palast. I don't know if anyone here has read him or not. He wrote the Best Democracy Money Can Buy, and there's a documentary, I think a film actually, that was made about it, and he weirdly found out that he and Paddock, the Las Vegas shooter, had been classmates together from kindergarten through 12 in a kind of a little shitty little town down in the valley. It was called Sun City or Sun Valley or something like that. And he said, you know, it was, you know, I was from the anus, and I was so surprised. I've met Greg Palast, and he's this breezy guy, and, you know, there's something, you know, you almost think of William F. Buckley when you see him. You know, he's got that very genteel, breezy attitude, and, you know, super erudite. And I found out, you know, tonight that he was from this place, and he said it was the anus, and it literally was the anus. It was where all the garbage facilities were, and it was where the sewage treatment plants were for Los Angeles. And it was just very poor and largely Mexican, he said, and it sort of sounded to me like the rough parts of Albuquerque where I lived from... I wasn't living in the rough parts per se too much. We were often in the nice parts, but the schools were mixed with the rough parts, and so you may as well have lived in the rough parts. And, you know, he talked about how, you know, he wasn't making any excuses for Paddock, but if you're Dr. Quack, or if you have questions about why did, you know, Paddock do this, or, you know, even maybe looking into what was his childhood. And Palast said he was, you know, he said he was sort of taken aback that people hadn't really gone into his childhood. They'd sort of said he closes his curtains a lot, he's a little bit weird. But his childhood had been in this part of California where there were no opportunities. Palast said it was just through a bizarre stroke of magic that he wound up in Stanford. He said really for all intents and purposes he should be, you know, adult with bolts in some factory, you know, in the valley. And that was really what Paddock was destined to be too. And, you know, he was saying that that's, you know, the problem with identity politics is what do you do with poor white people, you know, that have just as few opportunities. And he did say that Paddock, he said he was somehow not shocked when he heard about it. And here, I'm not even sure if Paddock did it, but we're going to go with, I guess, that narrative that maybe he did, and that the rage was, once again, not to excuse him, but just to sort of see, because I remember thinking, oh, this is a wealthy guy, why would he do this? But he was like super brilliant mathematically. I guess that he was way at the top of everything, but that no one helped him like to kind of go beyond it. He wound up in some kind of dopey trade school things, and just because he was so smart, he, you know, kind of bought real estate, but it was like he was a slumlord when he really should have been probably some kind of top mathematician or scientist or, you know, something of that nature, you know. And so, you know, these are interesting times. You know, we've got California, which, you know, I don't even know how it can show its face in public. You know, it should be ashamed of itself. That state needs a whooping. That they reduced making AIDS in, you know, that you can willfully give someone AIDS, basically murder someone, and it's a misdemeanor. You can call someone the wrong pronoun, you're thrown into prison. You know, Harvey Weinstein is so bad when he's with, you know, the worst tarts that we know. We've all, you know, known and gone to high school with these, you know, ones that go out there, and they're always like the very worst, right? That, you know, just want to ply men with cocaine and ruin their lives and make money coming and going, while the real victims, the ones that are eating ice cream out on the boardwalk with their parents, get shot, and no one seems to give a goddamn. They don't even know where this guy is tonight. He could be out shooting more. I'm sure the left would love it if he was just shooting up more white women. It seems like the left just revels in that. You know, I just remembered, it's like I kind of just put it all out of my mind because I never wanted to obsess on it. I'm sort of a positive person, and I've had a lot of really good experiences in my life too. I really appreciate everyone that I worked with in New York. They were terrific. I'm so grateful to everyone that I don't really have a lot of these bad experiences, you know, that these people are talking about, and I really am grateful for that. But, you know, I did go to the Evergreen State College, as you may have known if you've looked at some of the older videos, and I remember there were like, you know, there were cartoons, there were jokes. There was always the whole thing about, you know, white people, dumb white people, And if you really wanted to talk about someone dumb, of course they were blonde, and of course it was probably a blonde female. And I just, I remember even comic strips that I enjoyed that I thought were funny at the time. Not super funny. I didn't go out of my way to read them, but, there was like Tom Tomorrow. I don't know if anyone remembers that. And, it was probably some kind of progressive, leftist cartoon. But, the ditziest character in it was, a blonde white woman news anchor that was just considered the worst. And I'm just looking back and thinking about like just parties and seminars and things where, you would just, they would say, oh, white people or oh, this. And, I'd love to put up a thing that I saw of Obama recently where he was speaking like that, where he really went into depth about the history of the African part of his family. And, just there was all this reverence in his voice. And then when he talked about the white part of his family in Kansas, it was just mockery, And, so here this poor woman, it makes me know that any white woman now can really not go out on the street or expect that. And we've known this all along. I've been seeing all of the blonde white women in Sweden who are just raped from very young ages on up, gang raped, and no one seems to give a damn about that. They're going on and on about this Rose McGowan who ran around the red carpet naked, and they're not giving a damn about these immigrants that are truly dangerous, that take away our lives. So, we're living in this age of intellect and reason plummeting. And, this is the tragedy that we've reaped from, at a young age. I remember when I was little, I would see, the smart people weren't having children, and the people that looked really out of their minds and not very bright seem to have huge families. I'm not saying this is always the case, and yet I would say it was 95% of the case. And now this is what we're reaping, and we've got a population that got extremely dumbed down in so many ways, and just hit and hit and hit in so many ways, whether it's with fluoride or bad educations or terrible foods or terrible drugs and bad doctors, or whether they're direct mind control victims. The list goes on and on and on. The other day, I was thinking about this really great cartoon that showed Tolstoy and just different people, and posing the question, would they be allowed to exist now in this age of the stupid? That if you have any sort of idea, are you going to be handed Prozac, just to sort of make you happy to get through things? So it's an age of inauthenticity, an age of the vanification of men, and it's hard. It's like one wants to just sort of unplug everything, because it's all coming at us like, the Hasidim call a television a sewer in your living room. And that really is what it is, isn't it? It's a sewer of just the worst of the worst filth just pouring through. But how does one stop it? This poor innocent girl who was out on a sunny day doing exactly what a person should be doing on a sunny day was punished, and the satanic left is using the law in their own favor, to their own benefit, and we stand mocked, but we know what we're up against. Hopefully people are beginning to open their eyes. I mean, it's rather obvious how bad this has been and how on the brink we are. And I pray for this family tonight, and I pray that something can turn this around. You know, that this can be deemed a mistrial, but it's part of a huge picture of really the hatred of the left. And I don't know where it came from, except that it takes 3 generations to mind control a nation. You know, that's what the cultural industrialists say, and if they're brainwashed into this hatred, then they're brainwashed into this hive mind, and they're dangerous. They are programmed to destroy, and to them, you know, this was one of their own. They got their identity politics, and if you are around these people, they do this to you daily by invalidating you and reminding you continually of your lower status. And these people have government positions, and they are the judges and they are the jury now. And it's a time that to live very, very carefully. I think that was something that I did realize from a young age, was to be very protective of myself, because I knew nobody else was going to protect me. The police were not going to protect me. The law was not going to protect me. I was even told that when I had the experience with Bruce Bailey. I went to law enforcement, I went to lawyers, I called, and they all said, oh, you know, give us your background. And they said, oh, well, you're a white woman in college. No one wants to deal with you. So, you know, it was a realization that who I was, my being, which I could not change. I couldn't sort of jump in a vat. And I sort of really understand Rachel Dolezal. You know, who knows how she was treated, where you just feel like there's something about you that is so unaccepted that you are being forced to change your nature. And, you know, I think that the saddest thing about these people, these leftists, these Marxists, these so-called progressives, is their lack of spirit. You know, it's their, you know, they believe that if you have a system, it doesn't matter who's in it. That you've got a system and that everyone who's in it is going to somehow form to the system. You know, we've got this, you know, great capitalist, socialist, whatever, dream society. Come into it, and once you're here, you will just be it. And whereas nature would be the opposite, that something is made from the individuals involved and what is within coming out in an expressive way, like the founding fathers, like any inventor who is bringing forth their own vision, who is bringing forth their own inspiration and their own generosity into the situation. There's this cold kind of brick institutional feeling when I think of the word progressive. It always is like somewhere between, you know, an old brick school and sawdust that is so, it's like it's like a textbook where it takes the, joy out of knowledge, right? The humor out of comedy, the curiosity out of learning. These are the ones that made everything as dry as dust throughout the last century, and just murdered people and mowed them down, and everything with our whole history, with Russia. It's almost like it's a seamless thing, this woman being murdered by this this crazed, guy they just kept letting in. Is, Trotsky would be jumping up and down and clapping, yay, another bourgeoisie, Christian down, less genetic material, she'll never have children. There will never be this incredible lineage coming from her. That's what it really ultimately feels like, that the Marxists want to get rid of good genes or something. Anyone that looks like they could be something better than them. It's like this jealous, angry force that is unreal. And to see this beautiful woman just and her family just victimized again and again and again, it really does feel like the revolutionaries, their bloodthirst for that which is beautiful, that which is innocent. And that's why it's so hard to even face it. So there, okay. I did this one, but boy, it just also makes me want to delve further into, my little own videos about the past or something else. But I suppose that it is important to keep up with these hideous events and to always push against them, to not accept it. But it just always feels like a psychological operation too, like they're just doing it on purpose. They're just rubbing it into my face once again. You, white woman, look at you. Just don't even go out of your house because we'll mow you down and we'll party down, and that's just how it feels. And it's like, wow, it would be so nice to be on a planet with people with more, high IQs. And, we're not. We're in some kind of machination, surrounded by villains. And, what can I say except welcome to the apocalypse. There's someone on YouTube who always says that. Anyway, good night. Thank you for listening. Bless you all. You're the very best. And thank you so very much. Tell me what you have to think about this. And please leave your comments. They are so appreciated. Good night.